Welcome to this Read Theory hosted webinar. My name is Sean, and our focus today is going to be all about keeping your classroom lit. That means engaged and excited, whether it's virtually or face-to-face. This is one of a series of webinars that Read Theory is hosting, and we're really glad that you could join us. The person who's going to be presenting our webinar today is Catherine Baker. She is an educator with, I think she's entering her 9th year of teaching. I've had the privilege of working with her for, I think, 7 of those, first as a high school teacher and then as an elementary school teacher. So she's really able to speak to the different ability levels that you might be interacting with, and she's able to speak to the different age levels and groups that you might be interacting with. And so without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to her. So Catherine, the stage is yours, and we're just so grateful to have you here today. And there she is. Catherine, thank you again. We're really just so thrilled.
Sean, you could not have done a better job introducing me.
Just real quick, before we fully hand it over to you, I just want to remind everybody, if you have any questions, I'm going to go ahead and enable the Q&A mode. So if you type a question into the chat, it should automatically be moved to a special section that we'll get to at the end. We don't want to mess up the flow of Catherine's presentation by answering questions in the chat, so we will do our best to answer as many of those as we can at the end of the webinar. Okay, and I'll see you when Catherine is done presenting, but for right now, take it away, Catherine.
All right, so guys, yeah, like Sean was saying, this is going to be my 9th year in education. I started off in high school, and I came to 5th grade. When I get to my first resource, I'm going to talk a little bit more about why I made that move, and I've continued my studies in education through Stanford University's Hollyhock Fellowship and their Leading Fellow program. So what is the pain or the problem with virtual teaching? I think we all feel really confident and really great about what we bring to our classrooms in that face-to-face setting. But there are a lot of worries about what is our classroom going to look and feel like in this virtual world. So if you're feeling like losing your physical classroom means sacrificing your teaching style, the level of engagement, or the ability to build culture, don't worry, because I'm going to provide a little bit of a remedy by sharing some resources that I've used for years, both in the face-to-face setting, but also that I plan on bringing to my virtual classroom. So I hope that you guys are going to be able to find some cool stuff today. Really quickly, I wanted to talk about how I like to vet my resources, the things that I'm going to use and bring to my classroom, whether it be face-to-face or virtual. I want to make sure that my resources speak to the diversity of my classroom. Does it meet the needs of my children? Does it celebrate their diversity? I also want to make sure that the resources are relevant to them and what's going on in their lives. Is it going to help them? Is the resource engaging? Is it going to be a positive thing for them to interact with and help them feel successful? And lastly, and this I think to me is the part that I worry about most, is how can I use resources, digital resources, to build culture and community in my classroom? Because that's something that's my favorite part of teaching. It's building a community of young learners. And I think that's the thing that I've worried about the most about with this move to teaching online. Okay, so of course I would be remiss if I didn't start with talking about Read Theory. Really quickly, guys, you can see in the top left-hand corner, I shout out the grade levels that the resource will work for, and I also talk about why it's great. It's engaging, it's relevant, it's diverse. So when I was teaching high school, I noticed the past 4 years, there was a huge gap in their ability to read. I had several students who were seniors that were reading at like a 2nd or 3rd grade level, and that was deeply disturbing to me. And I, as a high school teacher, I had no clue where to start. So I talked with a colleague of mine, we did some research, and we came across Read Theory. We implemented it the next week. The the students logged in, they took their placement test, and within 2 weeks, we started to see that they were gaining more and more reading comprehension. And the excellent thing about ReadTheory is I've got a screen grab here from their placement test, but it's a great tool for increasing reading comprehension. It saves you time because you're not having to create or grade anything. They send all of those progress reports to you. So that's one less thing that you have to stress about in teaching in the virtual world. Like, it's one less thing that you have to do. It's rigorous. It increases in difficulty the more they master the content. And it's a great resource for like morning work, small groups, early finishers. And I will say, this is just a tip, don't grade their progress on ReadTheory. Instead, set a knowledge point goal. And that's like, as they progress and learn more and more, they get knowledge points. So once they get to a goal, definitely celebrate them, and they can work towards a reward. So that's ReadTheory. And ReadTheory is the thing that really made me understand I wanted to go back to like fifth or a lower elementary grade, and like I settled on fifth finally, so that I could help these kids at that fifth grade level to bring them up to speed. And ReadTheory is something that I used last year in my face-to-face classroom that made a big difference for my kids who might have been at like the first grade level. Some of them got up to third and fourth grade. So they're much more on track to be on grade level. So I really appreciate ReadTheory for that. Okay, guys, I want to talk about adding a little bit of spice to your Zoom calls. I never thought in a million years I would be using words like Zoom and social distancing, but you know, it is what it is. So these are just 3 features that you may or may not know about, that you can kind of bring a little bit of your style and more engagement into your Zoom calls. The first is you can embed music into Zoom. Music has always been a huge part of my classroom vibe. I always had music playing in the morning when students came in, during writing time. And I want to show you guys something pretty cool that I found. I'm from Durham. So Durham actually has its own their own lo-fi album. So this was like a really engaging way for students to be able to like hear music, but it was all about Durham. So like a lot of the track titles are about places that they've seen. When you click on it to go to download the album, it gives you a bunch of different options of where, you know, you could listen to this particular album, which I loved, and the kids thought it was really, really cool as well. So if, you know, wherever you're from, you know, if there's like an album or like music that's special to your hometown or your setting, it'll put the kids at ease, and it makes it like a little bit more relaxing, a little bit less intimidating. The next thing I wanted to talk about, there are 2 like controversial features of Zoom. The first is breakout rooms, which is where, you know, you can pre-assign rooms for students to be put in, and you're not technically supervising them, they're alone. And I just wanted to say, please don't be afraid of breakout rooms. This is a really, really great way for students to still be able to participate in group work and also have those small, more intimate conversations that ultimately do build culture. It's a great place for students to start those small discussions. I know that we all have, what do I want to say? Like we all have like things that we do, like turn and talk, or like, you know, grab a elbow partner and have a small discussion before we come whole class. And this is a great way, the breakout rooms, for those students who are a little bit more shy, that prefer the smaller setting, to really have their voice heard. And then that brings me to the chat feature. I had Sean model for me at the beginning of this webinar. You know, typing a question in the chat as people are logging on is a great way for you to know who's logging on, and it also gives you as the teacher the ability to you know, shout them out and make connections. I tried to keep up in the chat about really awesome book titles that I saw or that I've taught or that were special to me growing up. So you could do that in the mornings. You know, you could, every morning it could be like, what's your favorite ice cream flavor? And as they log on, be like, oh my God, Jose, you like Tutti Frutti ice cream? What even is that? Or you don't eat ice cream? Oh my gosh, like that's crazy. I love ice cream. So it's a really cool way for you to be able to start that conversation with kids, build the community right off the bat. I know we're also a little bit nervous about the chat feature because, I mean, kids are kids. You would never know what they're going to type. But I think that as long as you are very explicit about what you expect in the chat and what you don't think is appropriate, model, the kids will follow. So as long as you're setting that up, I think the chat feature is a great way for students to still have their voices heard in the classroom. Because I know me as a student, I'm a little bit more shy and reserved, so I would much prefer to type out my answer. I'm also not the most articulate person, so I like to type it out and think about it first. So if you can have that for your kids, I mean, it would make a big difference in the level of engagement. So that's, my little spicy Zoom tips. Okay, so Canva, this is an awesome graphic design website. I recommend it for grades 9 through 12 simply because it's a little bit of a sophisticated website, and I'm getting ready to show it to you right now. But when Canva says you can create anything, I literally mean anything. Okay, so I'm going to show you guys a couple resources that I've created, and let's take a look at this book tasting menu. I couldn't decide what book I wanted to read with the kids one year, so we had a little book tasting, we had coffee, we had tea. I set up the room like a little cafe, and I used this website, Canva, to create this menu. So it's kind of like, like a wine tasting menu, where you shout out the title. So we had 3 options: dark places, sharp objects, and the girl on the train. Here I just put in like the chef is the author. The cuisine type is the genre. Flavors to expect. That was like a little shout out to some of the themes that they could expect. And then down here we had some allergy or trigger warnings, so things that students might want to know about before we read the book. So this is just something that I created from a pre-existing template. If you look over to the left, you can see that they have a bunch of different templates already laid out for you. So I just chose one and kind of made it look how I wanted it to look. Another thing that I have made, I don't know about you guys, but Canvas, Canva and Canvas, I know it's a little bit confusing. Canvas is like the online learning management system that we're going to be using. And so I've had to become like a web page designer overnight. And so I wanted to show you guys another thing that I made for my Canvas. That I made from, I'm sorry, I'm like the worst multitasker, that I made for my Canvas. And it's just a little business card, but it's a digital business card. So this is just, it has my contact info. I was able to save it as a GIF file or a GIF file. So, we've got the little moving blackboard there. And in addition to like creating templates, I'm going to show you guys this right here. You can come over here to the left-hand side. Elements are like various, stickers, shapes, and frames that you might want to put in. So I'm going to put in this like cool little ice cream cone. You have various amounts of, or a million different text feature options that you can put in here. I will say, if you see the little crown and it says Pro, that just means that you'd have to pay for this element. Guys, I have used this website so much that I paid to go pro. I even made my vacation itinerary pre-COVID with this website. So it's really, really awesome. And then over here, you can actually upload photos from their library, or you could upload your own photos. So I'm going to throw in my little Merrick Moore logo. So Canva is a really awesome thing. You can have students create their own projects in here. When you're in kind of this free create mode, like I have here, I had them create like Instagram posts from the point of view of a character, and they had a bunch of writing that went along with that. But it was definitely one of the most engaging and fun projects that the kids did. They loved it. So I definitely recommend Canva. Moving on, we've got Slidesgo. So I'm in my classroom right now, and don't judge it because it's still torn apart from the summer. And if we go back face to face, I'm not going to be at the school setting, but normally my room is like my favorite place. I try to make it look like my house, and look like just kind of like a space where kids can feel like they're at home. And so I was like, how can I bring elements of my style to the virtual classroom? And one way is with the design of my slides. I have a daily slide deck. So I wanted to show you guys Slidesgo. They have thousands of templates, and you're going to see just how many templates there are for you to choose from. Slidesgo, where are you? Perfect. Okay, so this is Slidesgo. So let's just say that you are an elementary school teacher and your theme of your classroom is superheroes. You could type in superheroes here, and boom, we've got a huge, we have a massive selection of already pre-designed titles that you can use for your classroom. We've got like the little superheroes already here. You can download it as a Google slide or a PowerPoint template. I don't know about you guys, but I'm like a formatting queen, so I like to format sometimes in PowerPoint and then transfer it to Google Slides. So it's definitely versatile, depending on what programs that you have to use. Another really cool thing about Slidesgo is that if you go into education, you have a bunch of different templates that you could use, so for like lesson plans, online notebooks. I'm going to talk about that more later on. And you can also go, and there are, like, for you science folks, or if you like to use mind maps, if you teach history and you like timelines, they have these infographics that students could actually design themselves, which I thought was really, really cool. And it had my creativity kind of going crazy. So that is definitely something that I recommend. Slidesgo. All right. Now, fun YouTube quizzes. I know this sounds crazy, but this is my favorite thing that I brought into my morning meetings this year. Coming from high school to elementary, there were so many like new terms. Like I had no idea. They're like, morning meeting. I'm like, what's a morning meeting? Like, what am I supposed to do? They're like, oh, like you like just check in with the kids. And I'm like, that's like 5 minutes. I'm like, how you feeling today? And they're like, good, bad, I don't care. So I was like, man, we got to spice this up. And so one night I was just like hanging out thinking, and I was like on the internet, and like it was like a BuzzFeed quiz. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I could bring this in the morning meeting and this would be really fun. So what I did was I had the kids, and I'm going to go ahead and pull up this video, and I'm going to talk while the video is playing. But I'd have the kids come to the carpet, and you would have your kids like sit in the virtual world. They would, be sitting there. They have their notebook out, and I'm going to be like, all right, guys, so today we're going to figure out what the tree you pick reveals about your true personality. And they're going to be like, what? I'm like, you got to wait. It's really cool. It's really weird how it works. So I'd hit play, and I'm like, all right, guys, what you want to do here is in just a minute, several different trees are going to pop up, and I want you to just pick one. I want you to look at them and like really focus on the one that just speaks to you. Like if you had to choose one of these trees to look at for the rest of your life, what would that tree be? And then they would think about it, and they'd write it down, tree number 1, tree number 2, and then we play through the responses. I've got this video hyperlinked to the document I'm going to share with you guys afterwards. So if you want to know what the tree says about your personality, you can find out too. So it would go through like a long
since being in a state of tranquility,
like explanation of what it says about you. Some of my favorite ones though, guys, were like, what's your spirit animal, or like what extreme sport speaks to you? And a lot of the times it'll have like option A, B, C, or D, so it's multiple choice, and there would be point values assigned. So they would write down their answer and the point value. So then they'd have to add it up at the end. And so like even my 5th graders still have a hard time with like long addition. So we talked about different strategies for quickly adding that up. And it always, it wasn't a quiet time. It was a time for like quiet talk. And they were like, what did you put? Oh, why'd you put that? And then at the end, when the answers were revealed about like what their spirit animal was, like some kids would be like, man, I really want to be a wolf. And they would be like, I'm a bird? What? And I'm like, oh my God, why do you think that you got that? And so it was like, honestly, like one of my favorite parts of the day. And kids really, really loved it. So I highly recommend fun YouTube quizzes, especially in these first couple of weeks, guys, so that we can build that community in our virtual classrooms. It's a good time. And there are hundreds on YouTube. I just would say this is the one thing. Make sure that you watch it from start to finish and make sure all the answer choices are appropriate and all of like the explanations are appropriate, because sometimes creators like to get a little slick and slip stuff in there that they shouldn't. Okay. I teach 5th grade right now currently, but I have taught grades 9, 10, 11, and 12. So the next thing I want to talk about are slide deck notebooks. This is using like a PowerPoint slide for students to take notes on instead of like a traditional physical notebook. The problem that I've always had with physical notebooks are they get lost. I can't tell you how much time we wasted in class looking for a kid's reading journal or their notes notebook. And so like in the virtual realm, like we want to be able to kind of keep track of what they're doing, what they're writing. And a slide deck notebook is a great way to do that. So I'm going to show you guys one that I created just for the purposes of today. And I'm going to keep it in the presentation mode. So you can download this. I linked in the resource that I'm gonna share with you guys after that where I got this from. So if you are interested, you can use it. So this would be what the outside of the notebook looks like. Here could be like what they're using it for. I just wrote 5th grade, my name, and here on the side, we can see various tabs. So if you only teach one subject, like let's just say you only teach biology, you might want this to say biology, unit 1, unit 2, unit 3. If you're a 4th grade teacher and you teach math, science, English, and history, you might want to keep all of these tabs. So because I only teach English, even though I teach 5th grade, we departmentalize here at my elementary school, I'll go to the English tab. And here's a page right here that me as a teacher, I would go in and I could hyperlink everything that they're going to need for unit 1. So if it's a PowerPoint presentation for that day, if it's a book or an article, if it's a video, they can keep track of all of the links right there. And then they'd scroll down, and then this could be where they actually start to take notes. All the students would have to do to create another page is just to duplicate the slide or like insert a blank page, and it could go on for as long as they want. So this is something that I'm definitely considering using myself, my teammates and I this year, to keep the kids organized and to also practice just typing more, because I don't know about you guys, but my kids still type like this. And sometimes I'm like, the more that we type, the better that we get at it. So it's definitely a resource that I'm considering using this year for the first time. All right. So lastly, this is my last resource, guys. It is Teacher Monster to Read. I am married to a fantastic kindergarten teacher. And I asked her, I was like, what is the one thing that you want people to know, like for kindergarten, like a great resource, like a resource you couldn't live without? And she was like, oh, that's easy, Teacher Monster to Read. I was like, what is that? And she said, it is a website for very early readers. This is only K1. So if you're like K1, this is like specifically for you guys, okay? It is a way for them to practice phonics by teaching a little monster to read. So I'm going to show you guys the trailer for it because they can explain it a lot better than I can, but this comes highly, highly recommended. And I know that Sean's kids actually have used this as well. So here is the Teacher Monster to Read trailer, like a little teaser video. Here we go. And right, guys, so that's a little teaser of Teacher Monsters to Read. I was thinking about this. At my school, we have a high population of newcomers to the country, and so a lot of times they have no English language knowledge at all. And so I thought about using this with those kids when we're talking about initial letter sounds. So if you teach younger grades and you've got some ELL students, this could be a fun way for them to practice letter sounds, blends, and all that good stuff. But that's my special K1 resource. It is free to use on the computer only. If you're using on like a tablet or a phone, I think that you have to pay for it. But hopefully, since most of us are going to be one-to-one, they can play for free on the computer. So that's my last resource. I wanted to shout out 4 things that you probably have used, but you might have got lost in the back of your brain, and I just wanted to remind you of. Okay, so the first one is called Padlet. Padlet is an online interactive bulletin board. It's a way for you to post like videos, links, and students can contribute to it as well. A lot of people use that. Poll Everywhere is a live polling forum. It's a really great way to look at student responses in real time. You can almost use it as like a back channeling forum during class, but it's really cool for like at the beginning of a unit, or to say like, I know I always did one for when I was teaching The Great Gatsby, and I would always be like, well, what's your definition of the American dream? And so we could see all the responses up there and we talk through them. So that's Poll Everywhere. I hope that we all know about Kahoot. If you don't know about Kahoot, you've got to check this out. This is a quizzing website where you can create your own quiz, and students play with their cell phones or laptops. And it's very, 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 very competitive. I mean, I've had teachers come in and be like, is everything okay in there? I'm like, yeah, we're just playing Kahoot. Like, get into it. So Kahoot is awesome. The cool thing is you can also choose from free public quizzes as well. So like if you have like a little bit of time at the end of a class and I don't know, you're learning about, let's just say like we were reading Esperanza Rising this year. I would type in like chapter 4 Esperanza Rising quiz, and I'd pick a free one really quick just to kind of play. I definitely agree. Kahoot is the OG. Those oh my god, those theme songs always get stuck in my head, but like even I love playing Kahoot. And so the last one is TED Ed. This is like through TED Talks, but it's like specifically geared towards education. TED Ed has so many videos from spoken word poetry, talks about life lessons, pep talks for us teachers. TED has thousands of content knowledge videos. They've got your back. So if you want to add in just like a little variety videos to your lessons, I would definitely go to TED because they've got some cool stuff. So guys, that's all I've got for you today. Sean is going to drop into the chat at the end of this a link to this document. I want to show it to you. I've made this document. It's going to be a working document for us. When I attend a PD, I want to leave with something that I can use right now. And that is what I want you guys to be able to do, is to not only like be reminded of what we learned about today. Sean's got our link here. I'm going to also pull it up. I'm just, like I said, I'm the worst multitasker, guys. Like I can't even walk and chew gum. But I'm going to get it pulled up real quick, and then I'm going to share my screen. Perfect. Okay. But this way, we can stay in contact with each other. I've got all the resources that I showed you guys today linked with the ages that it's suited for and a brief description of the resource. I really encourage you guys to add your own virtual resources that you find over the course of this year to this list, so that we can like look back to it and be like, oh man, like I'm really stuck. I'm at I'm creatively burnt out. I I can't even think about what I want to implement in my class. We could come to this this resource here, guys, and scroll through it and be like, oh man, like Menti, that sounds like a cool thing. It's like an interactive presentation tool. We can like question. It's anonymous and like it's a great creative discussion starter. Okay, I'll check that resource out. So I encourage you. You have access. I see a lot of you guys on here. This is wonderful to contribute. All I ask is that you please hyperlink the resource to the title of the resource. So like ReadTheory's homepage is hyperlinked here. Give us like, you could even say elementary school, middle, or high, and then just like a 1 or 2 sentence explanation of what that resource is. And that's it, guys. I'm here to answer a few questions. Here's my contact information. I've got my email and my teacher Instagram. I appreciate you guys listening to me talk for so long and letting me share some of the things that I'm passionate about. So Sean, I will let you do Q&A if you want.
Of you all and have been answering some of your great questions privately. But if you have any additional questions, now is a wonderful time to ask them. So any ReadTheory specific questions, I am going to go ahead and, excuse me, I'm going to go ahead and I'll answer. And then any questions about the resources today, I'll go ahead and have Catherine answer. Catherine, just real quick, we never got the answer to this question for you.
All right, my favorite book growing up, my answer was complicated, like yours, Sean. My favorite book growing up was called Carl's Day in the Park, and it was about a Rottweiler that babysat children, and it didn't have any words. So my mom said that I would look at this book and I would make up the story as I went along. And then I would say around like 4th or 5th grade, I really got into Harry Potter, and that just opened up a whole world of magic that I still love today.
Great. We had the question, what was the name of that early reading game?
Yeah, teach your monster to read. Teach your monster to read.
Highly recommend. Highly recommend. For very, very early beginning readers, it is very nice and has enough repetition in phonics training and sight words that after just a little bit of time, students can begin with some extra guidance from a teacher to blend sounds together really well. This question, is it free? Catherine, you have a great answer to this.
I have a lot of things are for free. Everything I shared today is for free except for Canva. Canva, it is free. It's free for you to create like a basic account, but sometimes when you get into those really cool resources, you can pay to go pro. I saw that Stephanie Lee asked how to embed music in Zoom. I will share that resource with you right now. I'm going to drop a link in the chat here with a tutorial on how to do that. The only reason that I didn't show you guys how to do that today is because I didn't want to go to a separate Zoom. But hang on one second, and I will drop that in the chat for you guys.
While Catherine's doing that, I'll go ahead and handle this. So for me, how often do you have your students get on ReadTheory? It really depends on how you want to use ReadTheory in your classroom. So when I was a 9th grade teacher, I did what was called silent sustained reading time. And this was a block of time every day where my students were expected to read. I tried to keep it around 15 minutes. And what I would do is I would have Monday, Wednesday, Friday, it was pick your own book. And then Tuesday, Thursday, it was get on and do ReadTheory. I have another colleague who taught in high school level who would do ReadTheory Fridays, where they would just have their students have to earn a certain number of points on a Friday afternoon. After they achieved those points, they had some free time. And so that was a motivator to actually engage with the material, because you can't earn points in ReadTheory very easily unless you go slow and actually like try. When I was a 5th grade teacher, just like Catherine was, or Catherine is, Catherine, good luck on Monday.
Thank you so much.
where I would use Read Theory as part of small group station activity. So while I was doing remediation with 5 students of a certain reading level, I would have one station doing independent novel reading, and I'd have another group of students that would be doing 20 minutes of Read Theory. And we did this daily. And so it would change out who was at which station each day. But we try to keep our sessions to about 20 minutes each time. That seems to be like the sweet spot for me. Catherine, your experience, 20 minutes seem to be good?
Yeah, 20 minutes is perfect. And again, like I would say, like if you teach high school, if there's a time when like kids are doing like stations or like any kind of work like that, that's a great way to get them started on that, or just pulling out a block of your time. But especially in the elementary world, when we do centers or like intervention time, that's such a great time to do that 20 minutes of Read Theory.
I see this question, and if you had to choose between online teaching and face-to-face classroom, what would it be? My first priority is student safety. And
Yes.
so if I can be safe and in the classroom, I want to be in the classroom for the love of
Exactly.
everything, please. But if I can't be safe, I will do whatever I can be most safe. And so that's where I am personally. Catherine, you?
No, I agree with you completely, Sean. It is for me, like, of course I want to be face-to-face. I'm a big teddy bear. I love to hug the kids. I love to play soccer at recess with them. Like, I'm very like all over the place. So I love being face-to-face with them. I love getting like, like laying on the floor and like reading books with them. So of course I want to do that face-to-face, but if they can't be safe, and I would worry, like if they got sick, I would be, oh my gosh, it's my fault. I would much rather it be virtual. So that's why I was like, that's why like for today, I was like, how can I bring as much of that vibe from the physical classroom to this online setting? So.
Great. Let's see. I had a question. Oh, it looks like, let me just switch over here. I had a question about a previous webinar that we've hosted. Let me see, where did that question go? Basically, all of our webinars, we try to post within 1 week of hosting them. And so you can expect to see this webinar posted within 1 week. And all of these are on the YouTube channel for Read Theory. So you'll see, just go to YouTube and type in Read Theory. It's the first thing that pops up. You'll see lots with my smiling face, and then you'll see Catherine's presentation will probably be up, I would say, honestly, probably by Tuesday, but there's a little bit of editing and video processing that goes into it. So normally within a week, though. All right, let's see. It looks like that is about it for the Q&As that I haven't hit in the private chat. So if you have a final question to ask, do it now. Otherwise, I do need to say just really quickly, first off, thank you so much, Catherine. This was wonderful. Wonderful to see you in the teaching role again. I know you're going to do great this coming semester. And the other thing is, please, if you are planning to use Read Theory or these resources, please tell others about it. Read Theory is a free resource, which we require and rely on teacher recommendations in order to keep growing and moving forward and offering new things with our service. So please mention us on whatever digital or face-to-face method you have. If you're on Twitter, we are at Read Theory. If you're on Facebook, please just mention us in teacher Facebook groups. If you're on Reddit, do it. TikTok, make it happen. Just please, please, please help us get the word out. We really appreciate it. We're also going to be hosting additional webinars, especially as the school year starts to get going. Our next one, I believe, is on Friday. That's just a Q&A with me about different aspects of Read Theory. It is just there to answer questions. And so we're going to get into the nitty gritty. If you're like, wow, this is a really specific question for a webinar, come on Friday. And you should receive a message about that sometime later on this week. All right. Let's see. Oh, this is a great question. I think this is a great last question. Do you feel overwhelmed when using all these different resources for your class?
Yeah, like it can be really overwhelming. So I always say, start small. Pick one thing and do it well. Pick one thing, get really great at it, and then bring in another, and then bring in another, and bring in another.
And I would say
And
that
that's
your
great
level,
for kids.
yeah, your level of comfort with a resource will also affect a student's level of comfort with the resource. So before you decide to use that, I mean, my favorite resource is the digital notebook. It just looks perfect for me. But before I use that, I want to really play around with it for a while. And I know that we're in crunch time now, but that's the thing that I devote my time to, is one resource to get good at first.
Yeah.
All right. The only other question, I think, will the next webinar cover upper level and high school? So a lot of these resources that we've covered today can extend to upper levels in high school. I will say we have existing webinars that are more tailored towards the upper grade level. So please check out our YouTube channel. There is one that was done by Matthew Spencer, who is a 10+ year educator, national board certified, and he went through a ton of digital resources that are way more advanced than would be appropriate for like an elementary, for like, I'd say ages 6 through 12. His resources are definitely ones that you'd want to check out.
Yeah, we work with Matthew. He is awesome. Like, his stuff is, trust me, it's good recommendations, good people.
All right. We are at time. We said we would get out of here in 45 minutes. So everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. Please tell everyone you possibly can about ReadTheory, and stay tuned for more webinars hosted by me, and hopefully we'll have Catherine on again soon.
Sounds good. Thank you guys. I appreciate it.
Bye, everyone.